Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Weighing In, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. I am speaking faster than normal today because we only have GT for about 20 to 25 minutes. And we need, if we only get one thing with you, Grant, we have to pick Iowa State. If it goes faster than that, which I doubt it will, then we can talk to you about the NWCA Classic last night. I know you were there in person, but let's just get into it, shall we? So let me pull up. If you guys are watching, we are going to go to the fantasygrade.com. This is an awesome tool. You go to the duel and we pick. It compares the wrestlers. All right. So I'm going to grab a pen and paper. We're going to try to do this as quickly as we can. GT, if we don't get through them, I will see you Saturday night in Des Moines. We can get your pick on wax then. Okay?
Oh, good.
All right. So I got GT, Mark, and me. All right. I will set the table for these. You guys can make the picks. 125. Tyson Terrakina, ranked number 11 overall composite average, low of 18, high of 8. Coming off a big win against Eric Barnett in the duel where Iowa State shut out Wisconsin against Drake Ayala, high of 13, low of 21, average 17th. He's ranked 18th, coming off the loss on the last minute takedown to Kaler from Oregon State. I would have guessed a month ago, that Ayala was the favorite. Obviously, now Terrakina is ranked higher. This feels like a gigantic swing match. Mark pointed out to me that Ayala's got great offense. He's got an attack to the right side of the body now. Has not done a great job of defending legs. Once people get to his legs, the finishes have been a little easier than what you'd expect from a high-level wrestler. Terrakina's had wide variance. He's had very good highs and some surprisingly bad lows. Mark, who are you picking?
David, I'm going to take Drake Ayala. I can't believe he's going to wrestle the same way he did last week against Oregon State. I think this is important to him in-state duel. I think his choices were between Iowa State and Iowa when he got recruited. Those were he was really looking at. So I think he wants to make a statement. So I'm going to go Drake by decision.
GT.
I'm going to take Terrakina by decision. I think that Ayala's loss to Kaler was, Kaler's a really good wrestler. Just so we're all, once again, previous All-American. I think Drake just kind of looked in kind of a slump that match. But I think also Terrakina's win over Barnett was a huge probably confidence booster for him because Barnett's been a multiple-time All-American as well.
I agree with both statements, but I think it's more of a, what are we doing here? Like, whose momentum are we going to ride? Are we going to ride good momentum or bad momentum? I'm going to ride Terrakina and pick him by decision. Okay, 133. Evan Frost, ranked number 21st, versus Brody Teske, ranked 9th. Teske, much more seasoned guy, fifth-year guy. Frost, kind of him and his brother, although his brother's not going to wrestle in this meet, have been big surprises. When I talked to Kevin Dresser, he told me just how genuinely hard these two kids work and that they actually increase the pace of the whole room. GT, you can go first here.
My pick is Brody Teske by decision. I think seniority wins out here. I really like Evan Frost. Shout out to the Dowling Catholic coaching staff and Riot Finch. Big fans of the Frost boys. They do work hard. It's not surprising that Evan has had as much success as he's had already, only being a freshman. So very excited to see this match. But I think Brody I think he out edges him just in, kind of a seniority type path.
Yeah, shout out Riot Finch and West Des Moines Dowling Catholic. And Finch is one of your guys, right? He started at Iowa State and ended up at Grandview, correct?
Yep. And then my younger brother coaches at Dowling as well. So got to give out a little shout out to my little brother Brett. So there you go.
Some BT love. There you go.
There you go.
Let's go. All right, Mark. I know you're picking Teskey here, right?
Well, just so you know, Grant's little brother isn't little. He's pretty
Younger.
jacked.
He's younger.
He's pretty jacked.
He's
So
jacked up.
age-wise, but he's put together pretty dang good.
He's built like GT. He's jacked up junior. Okay.
I agree with everything Grant said. I think Frost is going to be really, really good. He's just awfully young. And Brody's a four-timer in the state of Iowa. Frost wrestled in the state of Iowa. He knows who Brody is. I think it's going to be not that he's a big brother, but it's going to be somebody that probably Evan kind of looked up to, wanting to do the things he was able to do in Brody. So I'm going to go Brody by decision also.
I got Teskey decision. Nothing to add here. We'll keep it moving. 141. Anthony Enchimendia has made his way down, originally from Sunnyside, Arizona, Fargo champ. Against Real Woods, the consensus #1 guy in the country. I will say this. Mark and I had a talk the other day, GT. I feel like Enchimendia may be as close to Woods, as good as him on his feet. I feel like Enchimendia has no chance to ride Woods, and I feel like Woods has a very high chance of riding and probably likely turning Enchimendia. So I think Enchimendia's best path to victory really would be to go 0-0 in the first period and have Woods pick down. I think if Enchimendia got a takedown or two, Woods would just pick top and turn him. I'm going to go Woods major here. Okay. GT, who you got?
I have Real Woods with a decision. I think Enchimendia will play the edge really well. I think he'll do a very good job of kind of keeping things at ease on his feet. But I think Real will get on top. I think he'll ride him just like a blanket. I think he'll get probably at least 3.5 minutes worth of ride time.
Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Real Woods here, and I'm going to kind of agree with you, David. I'm going to go major. I think he's going to turn him once, maybe twice. I think that will be the difference that puts him over the top. And it wouldn't surprise me early on if Real scores the first takedown in that match and then just goes to work on top. So, yeah, Real Woods by decision.
And I would say this from a confidence pool so far. I think all of us are fairly confident Teskey is going to win. We're all confident Woods is going to win. Obviously, the 25 match is a toss-up, and I think it's safe to say we're walking into a toss-up here. Voinovich is consensus ranked 9th. Casey Swiderski is 14th. Swiderski is up from 141, and it feels like he's cutting a lot less weight and wrestling with a lot more energy. I think we're back to you going first here, Mark. We've talked off air the other day. This feels like a true toss-up match, and obviously when there's only 10 matches, these toss-up matches are gigantically important to a dual meet.
Yep, and I like Victor. I like the way he wrestles, but he doesn't open up. Casey will open up. He will be firing left and right nonstop for 7 minutes. I think Victor might have a little bit more here than he can chew. So I'm going to take Casey. And Casey was coached by Scotty Burnett, who used to wrestle for me. So he wrestled for his club team. So I'm going to go with Casey.
By decision.
By decision.
GT.
I'm going to take Swiderski by decision. I think that he's wrestling kind of in a good mode right now. Like as Mark said, pulling off shots. I think this is going to be probably maybe like a 6-7 point decision. I think he'll be right there next to potentially a major, just because I think that he was going to push the action on Voinovich. Even though Voinovich is a very, very talented wrestler, I just think that Casey has got more offense.
It's hard to argue with anything you guys are saying. I'm going Swiderski decision as well. But it is interesting because if you go simply by the rankings, Voinovich is the favorite. All right, 157, Jared Franek, #2 in the country, ranked by everybody at 2. Cody Chittum, little variance, 12-18. He's a guy, gigantic recruit. If people don't know, he was at Iowa. He was training at Iowa. We can get into another time why he left Iowa, but he did leave, obviously, and come to Iowa State. Didn't really want to leave. There were some third-party things that caused him to. So I'm sure it's going to be a hugely emotional match for him. He's a guy that we all picked to place when we did our crystal ball picks at the beginning of the year. So, GT, I think you're up first here.
Well, I've been a humongous fan of Jared Franick for years now. So I'm going to take Jared Franick in a decision. I think this is going to be probably one of the best matches of the entire duel, just because I think that this is a big-time swing match. I think this is probably even more of a swing match than, let's say, Swiderski-Voinovich, because I think both of these guys are going to go scrapping hard. But I'll take Franick by decision.
Marco.
Yeah, I picked Cody to win nationals early in the year, I think. And that's before some guys came down. And I think Franick gets him this time, but it wouldn't surprise me if they wrestle again, couldn't beat him.
Okay, so I just want to make sure for the people at home, you have Chittum winning nationals and Franick winning the duel.
I picked Chittum to win nationals early in the year.
Yeah.
Because of the room he's in, the people he's working out with.
I'm just saying, you have Chittum winning nationals and Franick winning the duel.
I did.
You do. Okay. I mean, I guess we don't have a problem with consistencies here at all, but that's fine. Okay.
Happens all the time, boys. David Carr was how many times, and then O'Toole got him at nationals. So
I called that last year, didn't I, David?
You did.
Yes,
all right.
You got Franick across the board. Okay, 165. David Carr, your consensus number 2. Michael Caliendo, the talented transfer, consensus number 5. I'll go first here. I just think it's David Carr. I actually think Caliendo is super exciting, and I think he's going to win a national title before his career's over. But I just don't think it's this year. I mean, I'm hugely biased. I've seen Keegan wrestle a couple times in person. David Carr talked about how he got his diet right. You guys all know we've all at one point lost the last match of the season and how much that motivates you. So I think Carr comes through here with a decision. GT.
I'm going to say David Carr by decision. I think these guys are super talented. I think you're 100% spot on after, let's say O'Toole and Carr leaves. I think Caliendo's like in the hunt for, preseason ranked number 1 later in his career. But I think David's going to win in this one, especially one of David's last Cy-Hawk series is in Hilton. I think he wants to go out with a bang.
Yeah. Marco, you have Carr next topic.
Yeah, I really do. And I'm just deciding if I think he can major him. Carr's going to be up for this match. He wants it bad. They want Iowa bad. Depending on what happens in the first 5 matches, I'm trying to think if David Carr is going to put a little extra effort into it. I just think Michael's awfully talented. And if he scores once, I think that takes the decision away. Or the major away. So I'm going to go by a decision, David.
Okay. 174, MJ Gaitan against, and it will not be Patrick Kennedy. This website captures anybody who's ranked at a weight. So Kennedy and Gabe Arnold are ranked. So this is super interesting. At the beginning of the year, this would have been Nelson Brands, but it's MJ Gaitan against Gabe Arnold, who beat Travis Whitlake last week. Gabe's a true freshman. He's got a Missouri background. He's got a Wyoming Seminary background. He's got a Georgia background. Against Gaitan, big move guy. We saw him wrestle last year. It feels like sort of it's the fundamental guy against the guy with the high flyer stuff. If there's no big moves, I think it favors Gabe Arnold. I think if there's a big move, it's Gaitan maybe with back points or a fall. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're back to you going first, GT.
I'm going to take Gabe Arnold in the decision. I think Gabe's just a little bit too more fundamental. I don't think him getting exposed by some of that high flyer action that MJ's got, but I think that's another intriguing matchup between two very polarizing styles. But I think Gabe wins by decision.
And Gabe showed a ton of composure first time out of the gate. And this is a young man that's been training to get ready, not knowing what was going to happen with the gambling stuff. So credit to him. And if somehow something switched, just so people know, he gets 5 dates. He's used 2 now with the Luther Open and the Oregon State Duel. Mark.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Gabe also, just because I think it's hard to junk a kid that's like 5'2". I mean, he's got such a low center of gravity. He's not going flying anywhere. And
If he junks him, it's going to be from scrambles off shots, not from feet to back. Like
Gabe doesn't take a lot of shots. He stays in really good position when he gets in. He's going to try to finish. So
I'm not saying he does. I'm saying the feet to back stuff is going to be really hard to get, like you're saying. I just think like if he can, drag him into some scrambles. But I am going to pick Arnold as well. Let's go to 84. To me, 84 and heavyweight are the two. If I was doing a certainty pick or confidence pool, these two matches are the biggest ones. Will Feldkamp got a pin last week against Wisconsin, against Brendan Swafford, who's ranked like 35th, pretty much off the board. Feldkamp returning All-American transfer from Clarion. Mark, you're first here.
Yeah, I got to go with Feldkamp, and I'm going to give him a win by a major decision.
Okay.
Swanson didn't look good against Munoz last weekend, but Munoz is also a major stud. I just think Swafford's a little over his head in this match.
GT, decision, tech, major.
I want to take Feldkamp by either. I think he's going to get a tech. Okay. I think Swafford's going to open himself up a little bit too much. Swafford's, NAI national champion. He's got a lot of funk with what he does. He has this really good elevator system. But I think Feldkamp's just going to, put him in a ton of positions and get him turned a whole bunch on top.
I actually want to pick Feldkamp by fall because he's a pinner. He had a ton of pins last year. So I'm going to do that. I don't feel great about it. I think your guys' picks are smarter, but I actually think this is somewhat likely. All right, probably the biggest true swing match of the meet. Two guys that in a lot of years would not be starting for Iowa or Iowa State. Broderson ranked 26, Glazer ranked 23. This is my pick. I'm going to pick Glazer, but I have no reason for it. I don't have any confidence in it. I don't know. I'm just going to go with the rankings, which we all know mean nothing. Mark, what you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go Glazer. I just think he's been around a little bit longer. He wrestled a lot back up last year. The last 2 years, he's wrestled quite a few matches. So I think he's a little stronger. He looked good against Oregon State. So I'm going to go Glazer by decision.
GT.
I'm going to take Broderson by decision.
Okay. All right. Let's get to heavyweight. Younger Bastida, who is creeping up the rankings, by the way, and looks really good against Bradley Hill, who's not ranked, but that's who Iowa will put out there. This is maybe the biggest swing match of the gambling results. Cassiope would be a favorite here. Not saying he would win, but he would be favored. Bastida is a huge favorite here. GT, who you got?
I'm going to have a Younger by a major decision. I think it's going to be right at 8 points. I think it's going to come down to Younger getting, I think, about 3 or 4 takedowns. I think Younger's pretty talented on his feet. Not to say that Hill is not. I'm just saying that I think that Younger is going to get that major decision by just getting some monster takedowns.
Marco?
Yeah, I got to go with Younger also. I just think he's a better wrestler right now. So if it was Cassiope, I'm not 100% sure. I get Cassiope. I just think Younger's wrestling really well, and I think he causes all kinds of problems for most heavyweights. So
you have Bastida by major?
I do.
Okay. I think Bastida techs him. I think he just gets going on his feet and lets it rip. So, GT, you've got Iowa State winning 6 matches to 4, 21-12. Mark, you've got it 3, 6, 10, 13-6, 16-6, 16-10. You got it 19-15 Iowa.
Okay.
And I've got it. It's ISU, Iowa. I got 3 ISU, 3 Iowa, 4 Iowa, 3 Iowa State, 3 and 3.
Yeah. Well, let's. Yeah, I'm gonna.
I got Iowa with 16 and Iowa State with 3, 6, 9, 20. So GT, you and I are fairly close. I know you got to get on the plane, so I'm going to let you boogie. I will see you Saturday night. Wings are on me, brother.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this duel. Once again, this is a really epic, first time on ESPN coverage. It's a really cool lineage thing for everybody in the state of Iowa for that duel. And once again, I think there's going to be a lot of buzz around this with the gambling stuff. I think in the crowd, I don't think they'll probably talk about it much on ESPN, but what a great rivalry. What a great duel to put on ESPN. Really looking forward to it.
All right, my brother. Travel safe.
Hey, Grant,
Yes.
before I know you got to go, and I know you're in a hurry. Tell me what you saw at heavyweight last night.
Oh, so Kirkfleet, he looked pretty almost untouchable. He looked really good during the match. I will say that I was telling David before we got on the air that like the first takedown, Hendrickson, I was trying to like get out of it and kind of scramble out of it and got caught on his back, and then injury time, so he's automatically down 8 rip. But then, I was telling David earlier, like he had to like basically press the action, and Greg caught him stepping too hard. Great low singles, no scramble, nothing. Just really looked dominant. And Penn State guys, they looked unreal. Brooks looked next level. Strachey looked like a monster. Van Ness looked really good against a really, really talented Kyle Parko. And Bernie Truax literally, number 1 versus number 2 at that weight class. Great match. Just one takedown on the edge. That was it. So that was a really cool event. It was really cool to see, the Division II, Division III, and women's represented there. Really, really cool event. Thanks to the NWCA for putting that on.
Yeah. Rec Hall was packed.
Safe
Let you
flight,
go.
Grant.
Thanks, boys. Enjoy the pod.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. So we wanted to get that done. There's a bunch of things we needed to get to today, but we definitely wanted to get that out of the way. So Mark, you got it 6-4 Iowa, and we both have it 6-4 Iowa State.
Yep.
So, I feel like, there's matches we agree on. We all agree on 33, 41, 49, 57, 65, 74, 84, and heavyweight. So basically, you've got Iowa winning both 25 and 97. He's got Iowa State winning 25 and 97, and I've got it as a split.
Yep.
But if we're right about the 8 matches that we agree on, it's Iowa for 3, for 7, for 10, for 13, and then Iowa State for 3, for 6, for some maybe like if we kind of split the difference, like 6, 10, 14. So, there's not going to be enough of a difference there. If those 8 matches are correct, it just comes down to these 2.
Yep.
So,
And the one I'm most intrigued about, David, to be honest with you, I know 97 is not a high-profile match, but it could make the difference. Obviously, Arnold at 174 is a huge swing match for either team because they're both really quality young kids, and they're both young. I think Gatan is a sophomore, redshirt sophomore, or redshirt freshman.
I think redshirt freshman, but definitely young.
So, and you got a true freshman against Gabe Arnold. But Gabe's wrestled in all the big events coming through high school, so this should not be a big surprise for him when he walks in a crowd with 16,000 people there, because he hit a big crowd, at Iowa City last weekend and upset the number 9 ranked kid. So, but 25 is what I'm really want to see what happens, because I think that's going to be a great match. I really do.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you about the Gabe Arnold thing, but I think it is a little different walking into a 14,000 seat arena when they're going crazy for you versus going crazy against you. And if we're right, the duel's going to be, it feels like Iowa's got more of their wins down low and Iowa State's got more of their wins up top. And you can definitely see that, like there's at least a couple of those weights. Like we picked Arnold, so you could argue the Nelson Brands thing doesn't make a big difference. Like maybe it'd be a major instead of a decision. But 84, I think I would still pick Feldkamp over Assad, but certainly not by that margin of victory.
Sure.
But the heavyweights, the big swing is the big change. So it's interesting. Like sometimes you plug in guys and it doesn't like. If you have a good guy and he's going against Keegan O'Toole, and you have a not a good guy who's going against Keegan O'Toole, the difference is just probably margin of victory, not who's going to win.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get into.
Before you go, David, just remember, Iowa's going to have probably 6,000 fans there. It's not going to be totally Iowa State. Iowa travels really well to follow wrestling. Iowa State's never come close to selling out their arena. So I really think you're going to see a lot of Iowa fans also there. So it's going to be nuts.
Okay. All right. So these rankings came out before the All-Star meet. Flo put out rankings this morning, but our guy Christian Thompson just went off what was up like on Tuesday. So at 125, DiAgostino moves up, Barnett drops, Terrakina moves up, Kaler moves up, Ayala moves down, pretty much what we talked about. So this would be my argument. I would have Jacob Camacho number 1, Figueroa number 2, Ramos number 3, Noto number 4. How would you have it?
I would probably have Camacho 1. We haven't seen Figueroa yet, so I hate to move him up to number 2 right now.
That's fine.
Until he starts wrestling. I'd probably go Ramos 2, Noto 3, Figueroa 4. And then
okay.
1.
That's fine. So we agree it's Camacho, Ramos, Noto in that order based on A, B, B, 1 beat 2 beat 3. And then Figueroa just slides in wherever Figueroa slides in, depending on your choice. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a way to explain it. We're not as different as it may sound. 133, really no change here. The big news is Braxton Brown moves up. I watched him wrestle at 25. And he looked terrible at the Mizzou invite. I mean, like, he got completely ran down by Dominic Mendez. We talked about it briefly last week from Cal Poly. I think he was just cutting too much weight. Either it was cutting it wrong or cutting too much, but it was clearly a conditioning situation. And I think we know those Maryland guys are training hard. So they bumped him up, and he got a good win right away at 33, but not a lot of big changes inside of the top, really 15 besides that.
Well, David, now that the All-Star meet's over, what would you do with Latona? Because he's lost some matches this year. This isn't his first loss. Should he drop
so this is worth talking about. This weight's a little goofy. First of all, McGonigal, who's the backup, beat Latona, so you definitely justifies Crookham being above him. Second of all, it'd be interesting to see if McGonigal ends up in the portal. Third of all, I visited with Lucas Bird this weekend. So Win Magazine, if you're watching, Lucas Bird is medical redshirting. Like, he literally told me that himself. Okay. And so are both Bronagles, okay, when we get to 65 and 97. I don't know what's going on with Cannon because they wrestled Ragusin here at 33 and they wrestled Lemley at 41. So, I mean, I would probably put Arini back above Latona because he placed – well, Latona placed above him at Nationals. Arini placed above him at ACCs. And I probably – I mean, that's a crazy thing. Brody Teske probably moves in the top 8 because Kolioko lost. So, kind of a mess. 41. Okay, probably the big news here is Cal Miller beat Cole Matthews, okay? So Cal and Ethan Miller are both Kansas City kids. They both wrestled in Border Brawl. Some of these sources have got to do a better job of ranking these guys because, like, 3 of the sources have Miller above Matthews, and 2 of them have Matthews 5 spots above Cal Miller, and that's what's screwing up the average, and those guys are wrong. This early in the year, you have to go off head-to-heads. I mean, you would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Coderhant lost to McNeil last night. He did a good job, representing himself. He's local to my area. And then Echemendia is in these rankings here at 41. So we'll find out real quick how good he is. We talked about it last week, and Tegan Jamison. Looks like he's the starter for at least a semester, and you see Lemley down here at the bottom. Okay.
Lemley's good. For a true freshman, he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, he won everything. No change at 49, except Kenan Webster he's wrestling, it looks like, at least his 5 meets. He's a true freshman that's won everything. Jordan Williams won the Lindenwood Open and beat Carter Young, his teammate, 15-2 in the finals. So at least for now, it looks like Jordan Williams is a starter. He's a guy that won a ton of stuff. He's the Iceman from Fargo, would come back and win at the last second at much higher weight classes like 52 and 160. He lost in the state finals to Angelo Ferrari at 160. 157, Vinny Zerban moves up. I'm going to get to watch him wrestle in a couple of weeks. Been lucky enough to be in his corner in the past. Braden Lee's moving up. Johnny Lovett takes a loss and moves down. But in the top, really the top 16, pretty minor movement. 165. So somebody asked me the other day, does the All-Star meet affect the seedings versus the rankings? And here's the answer I gave, Mark. You tell me if you agree. The All-Star meet affects the rankings because the people that are doing the rankings watch the match.
Yes.
Okay. And the rankings have an indirect input on the seedings because the coaches poll is 30% of the seeding formula, and the coaches use the rankings a great deal because they don't have the time to do all this research. I have coaches that call me every year and ask me when we were doing the rankings at track, why we had the guys we had them, and with this website, hey, which of these 3 or 4 sources do you trust the most? It's not generally at the top. It's generally like the 25 through 33 guys where there's the most questions. Now, and also to be fair, Izzy Oliznik looked really like he won the match last night. I would probably pick Dean Hamidi in a rematch. He was in on his legs like 7 times. Oliznik hit an unbelievable ankle pick, perfectly clean finish, and was winning by 1. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He was winning by 3 because the final was 8-2, I think. And Hamidi came at him late, and Oliznik hit him in a super sweet, like whip over, like down block whip over to win the match. Hamidi's output, as usual, is super high. But it's a rough week for Wisconsin, man. They get shut out, and then they go lose a match where they were probably in on the legs like 8 or 9 times to 2, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Chris Bloom has to be shaking his head. I know his team this year is not strong top to bottom, but he's got some good kids there that didn't perform at all. It's like they didn't even show up, which is, I mean.
Well, the weird thing about the Iowa State duel, though, Mark, is Iowa State was favored. They were favored in 9 of the matches. Like they were on paper better at 9 of the matches. It's a bad matchup for Wisconsin because their best wrestler wrestles Iowa State's best wrestler in Carr, and then Tarakina just took it to Barnett, which may have taken the wind out of their sails. But, I mean, like, that was the only match they were big favorites in, Wisconsin.
Well, I don't think people understand. Tarakina beat him last year also in the duel. Then he got hurt and didn't wrestle again. So
understand, but
his
Barnett
style gives it,
Just saying. So, but, I mean, this was a tough one. If you're Team Wisconsin, it's tough because he wrestled really well. Like, I mean, Oklahoma State's got to be happy. Oliznik will probably move. Caliendo will probably move to 4, Oliznik to 5, Hamidi to 6. That would be my guess, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to 74. Okay. There's not a lot of changes here. I mean, bro. Carter Starachi, 11-0. Okay? Got in a couple times in the first period, got a stalling call against Mackay, rode him the whole second period and turned him, got away in the third period, got a takedown, got stalling calls. I mean, this did not look like the guys that wrestled in overtime a couple years ago in the national finals.
I agree. I'm just Sriracha just keeps getting better and better, and he tells you that he's, pound for pound the best kid in the country in his opinion, and he goes out and he's proving it right now. He is just on an absolute tear. It was all of last year, and he has been so far this year.
The other big news at this weight is whether Chris Foca is going 74 or 84. So he's ranked by different sources. So again, intermat flow and open mat, which seem to have a better handle on the rankings early in the year, have him at 84. Win and Amateur Wrestling News have him at 74. So we'll talk about it in the scenario where he's at 84. That has a tremendously positive impact on Shane Griffith / Michigan, Carson Kartsla, Ed Ruth, Peyton Mako, Kate DeVos. Justin McCoy would move up to 8. That'd be huge for UVA. Okay. Again, Whitlake should probably not be 10th and above Gabe Arnold. So, he doesn't have.
Open mat has him at 7 still. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're doing there.
No, they have him at 9. You got to read it. You got to read it, right?
Okay.
Washington.
My bad. I was looking up a couple of, all right. So they got him at 9, 10, 12. Yeah, people are going to say, Gabe Arnold beat him. Why isn't Gabe there? Well, it's Gabe's first match. They haven't actually decided probably 100% if they're going to use him. We both think they're going to use him this year. So they're probably waiting till they find out.
I struggle with them having Whitlake above Kemp, above Mako. I get Kemp being above Mako. Not everybody did that, but I get that. Head to head, that's fine. That's an argument for sure. And you and I talk about every week how the rear view mirror gets further back and what you did this year counts for more. But if you put Kemp above Mako, I can live with that. But there's no reason to put Whitlake above Mako. Whitlake's done nothing to be above Mako. Mako was an All-American last year. Whitlake, I think, went 0-2 at 184 or 1-2.
Yep.
So, all right, 184. So again, Foca plugs in by the other sources at 4, 3, and 4. Basically, he's kind of flip-flop with Munoz. It's kind of a coin flip there. So people that didn't see this Kekheisen and Truax match, Truax gets the first takedown, almost no defense from Kekheisen off of it. And then Kekheisen gets the legs approximately 127 times. And Truax always on the edge and always put his back foot on the floor.
Yep.
They called him for stalling once. Then they called him again. And then I think the third stalling actually made the match tied because it was 3-1. They each had escapes to make it 4-2.
With 10, 15 seconds left. It was really close to the end of the third period.
But the same time they called that, Kekheisen was in super deep and finished the shot.
Yep.
This had been one where if Truax had held on, I would pick Kekheisen to win again. Kekheisen, it's sort of the same thing with the Hamidi match, right? Where ton of volume. The difference was, Kekheisen was able to come back from the early takedown. Olenek put a good ride on Hamidi. That was kind of the other difference between these two matches. But, Foca and Kekheisen, if I had to pick two guys in the finals right now, I'd probably pick Foca and Kekheisen.
Munoz looked really good last weekend. I know it wasn't a top-notch kid, but pretty good. But I agree. I think Truax. Did you see how easy Parker was able to get in on him? Usually,
but he's also damn near impossible to finish, right?
Yeah, he is really hard to finish on.
So and listen, nobody makes adjustments in the season better than Penn State, right? So
Agreed.
And he hasn't been in that program as long as these other guys. So they're still figuring out how to coach him. Okay, so 97, Aaron Brooks, David Taylor talked about on the air that, him and Ed Ruth would kind of have internal contests on who could win by more, and it feels like Brooks and Sriracha are going to kind of have that going. I think the real question here is, let me say this. I would have started the year Trent Hidley where he is. Okay. At 5. for sure, because I would have ranked the 3 All-Americans at the weight. And then I would have put Brooks at 1 because he's a he has a chance to be a 4-timer. And then I would put Hidley coming in up a weight behind those returning All-Americans. But Hidley just beat Conchadze. And I'm not sure Tanner Sloan Buchanan or Rocky Elam could do that. Now, Rocky Elam was an under-20 world champion. Buchanan's got a win over Ferrari. Tanner Sloan made the finals last year. So there's sort of arguments for all of them, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But we might be sleeping on Hidley to make the finals. I mean, I think for him, he's got a chance to be the 2 seed because Sloan, Buchanan, and Elam are all in the same conference.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys are going to take, they're going to take losses. Now, if somebody comes out of that conference undefeated, that guy's the 2 seed for sure. So Cardenas and Beard are in the same conference, but Hidley doesn't have anybody in the ACC up super high. The other big news here is Luke Stout beats Silas Allred. So they did the normal thing that most rankers do. The week before, Stout was at 16, Allred was 7. They met in the middle at 9 and 10. And again, take Zach Bronigal out of your rankings. He actually told me this. All 3 of these guys told me this themselves. Okay. So Brian Van Clee, if you're listening, I'm giving you free nuggets here. Okay. Heavyweight, no change. Just Kirkfleet. Me and GT were talking off the air before you jumped on, Mark, that he's like, well, it was really impressive, but you got to remember Kirkfleet got the takedown and the near fall and then the escape because he got to pick down on the injury. So, it's 35 seconds in and it's 8-0. And, then you start doing higher risk moves. I agree with all that. I also just think Kirkfleet looked really stupid good.
Oh, man, his shots were so clean and precise. I just don't, even if he doesn't score 7 right off the get-go, David, I think the way he's able to get in on that double leg below the knees, he just sits them right to their butts. He's got them hooked up, and he's ready to go. He's staying out of the positions and needs to stay out when you wrestle somebody like, Hendrickson.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple loose ends. I think some of these we talked about. We talked about Folka going to 184 possibly. We talked about Cal Miller beating Cole Matthews. We made sure we covered the NWCA All-Star results for the most part. The women's matches were really competitive. We made our picks for Iowa State. We mentioned Lucas Bird. Okay, one sort of, fluffy thing and one non-fluffy thing. Mizzou, I was at the Arizona State meet Sunday. Very cool. Those guys had a cool alumni night. They honored Ben Askren. And they wore the 2 pieces, and obviously we used those. So I was going to give GT some love because they were Nikes. But they were pretty cool looking. They did a nice job with them. Had the kids' names down the back of them in vertical. So that was sick. And then RBY and Gomez are competing for Team Mexico this weekend. So I'm intrigued by that for 2 separate reasons. First of all, I want to see RBY. I think the most weight they give these guys these days is 2 kilos. Okay. So they go from 57 to 59 kilos. 59 kilos is 129.8. Okay. I would not imagine that's a terrible cut for RBY. If he was making 33 for 3-4 years in a row, guys are that good. Generally not cutting a ton of weight. You never look like he ever had a bad weight cut at Penn State. You never looked flat energy wise, but it'd still be interesting to see him sub 130. Gomez will be wrestling 65 kilos plus 2 probably. So that's 143, which bumps him to 147.4, excuse me, which is pretty close to 149, which is where you think he's coming back. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he entered the portal. I have not heard anything since that. I haven't heard that he signed with Michigan, and that's where he's training. So you would assume that's what he's going to do. And my question is, David, where would you put him in the rankings if tomorrow they say he's Michigan's 149-pounder? Where would you put him, knowing how good he was last year before he got that basically injury at the Big Tens? And, he probably even shouldn't have wrestled at Nationals. He tried, did what he could, but I mean, he was limping around. I think he's going to be one of those guys that contends also to get in the finals.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the brackets because that's really the only way for me to, that's how you got to look at it, in my opinion. Okay, so Gomez was at 49 last year. What was he seeded? Do you remember?
Low because he was hurt. I think 13th.
No, Kellen March was 13. Was he at 41 or 49 last year?
He was at 49.
He was the 14 seed. You're close. He beat Johnny Lovett, then he lost to Parco, and then beat Kellen March, and then got pinned by Lamer. So this is third, fifth, seventh, round of 12. He lost in the round of 16, okay, which is then how I would rank him, okay? So, I mean, I think he's probably somewhere in that Graham Rooks, Ethan Miller, Quinn Kinner range because he beat Kellen March head-to-head, so he'd have to be above him. And Victor Voinovich made the round of 12. So, I mean, he'd be like – you'd have him higher. I'd probably have him 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
And that would just – I think my logic, you can agree or disagree, but where you start him – like
if he's healthy, would you be shocked if he was in the finals of the national tournament this year?
Would I be shocked?
Surprised.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's why. Shane Van Ness looks like a finalist after he wrestled Parco. And so that leaves one other spot. And so he has to beat some combination of Lovett, Parco, Caleb Henson. I mean, the rest of these guys, like he got pinned by Lamer, but I think he's probably better than him. But if you say he's the fifth best guy, the fifth best guy has to beat the 4 and the 1 to make the finals. I think that's hard.
Well, here's my thing. He beat Sammy last year.
Yeah, no, he looked unbelievable.
Wasn't really close. I mean, he just dominated in the third play.
That match doesn't count. It was the All-Star match. It doesn't count.
It doesn't count, but it does count. Okay. And then he
I'm joking.
He also beat the 4-timer last year.
He beat Yanni?
Yes, he's the one that beat Yanni early in the year. But he had lost to Iowa State. Yes.
And that wasn't very close.
No. So, I mean, if he's healthy, I think he's got a shot at making the finals of the national tournament.
I don't disagree. Or I agree. Let me say it that way. I'm saying like that's my mom would say like don't use double negatives. Okay. Dylan Gilcher's been wrestling 49 for Michigan too, so that's something to keep an eye on. And I think Penn State is going to – we got a couple of minutes here. I think Penn State's going to go for the team record this year. Okay, so by the way, the team record is 170 points. We did, and I guessed that on the head last week, by the way, in case you're keeping score at home. And by the way, Mark, how did our point spread picks turn out last night?
I think I'm down 3.
Yes.
I had some guys that just didn't do really well.
Or just take the L like a man. Just,
And I'm here. Am I here? I could have taken the day off and said, no, I don't want to listen to David tell me.
You beat me in fantasy football, and I brought it up. Now I got to bring up that I whipped you last night in picks.
You're up 3. Three's a duel.
It was 6-3. I won 2 out of that's a 67% winning percentage.
Of my 3 against your 3 that were even, and then you won 3. So you're up 3.
Thank you for doing the math. I never would have figured it.
That's how I look at it.
You should look at it that you're losing by a lot.
We didn't pick one. Now, to be honest, we didn't pick 157 because they were Division II kids and we didn't really know anything about them.
2 and 3, Division 2 and 3.
Or we would have probably picked it, but we just didn't know enough, didn't have any information on them.
Well, we should have just picked the world's longest 1-1 match is what we should have picked, and then we'd have both been right. Anyway, so, okay. I think Penn State can get to 170 points. And here's why. I think Nagao can take third. I think Van Ness can take, or Bartlett can take first, second, or third. Van Ness is going to take first or second. Levi Haynes can take first or second. Messenbrink's going to be top 6. Storace wins it. Truax is top 3. Brooks wins it. I think Kirkfleet's at worst top 3. But the thing that makes me think after last night that they can do it is who they're bonusing. I mean, if Aaron Brooks bonuses Tanner Sloan, he's going to bonus his way through the tournament. So that's like 5 extra points if they're all major. Same thing with Carter Storace. Same thing with Kirkfleet. Even if he loses to Gable or Hendrickson and gets bonus on the back, like last year, and Van Ness looks really good. And Bartlett's the one that kind of needs to open up a little more.
Yep.
For as good as he is. But Nagau's really good on top too. And if you get turns now, you got to take down in a turn in riding time, and it's 8-0 after the first period.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not arguing, David. It's just really, really hard to get to 170. In the year Iowa did it, they weren't even favored to win nationals that year. Oklahoma State was. They had lost to Oklahoma State in a duel, 3 or 4 weeks before the national tournament. They were ranked second in the country as a team, and they came through and had the nationals of their lives for Gable.
Yeah, I get all that. I get all that. And it's good historical context. I'm just saying Penn State, I think they can get to like 135, 140 placement points. Okay, which is all like they're ranked right now to do 148.
Yeah.
Okay, if they hit 148, they're going to break the record. I mean, just so people who don't nerd out like this, that's 148 without bonus. They're going to get 23 bonus points. I mean, I would bet that if there's a separate bet on whether or not Penn State will score 23 bonus points at the national tournament, sign me up for the over.
Okay.
You would take the under?
No, I didn't say that. I'm not arguing with anything you say.
No,
I'm just saying.
Okay.
We had talked about this earlier. This is why we thought they were going to use Mess and Brink, because I thought Cal would want to go after that record because, I mean, next year he's losing some good kids. I mean, phenomenal kids that you just can't replace. They've got great backups. Don't get me wrong. They got kids that are going to place in the top 4 or 5, but they're not going to go through the tournament winning it major and everybody like Storace or like Brooks. I mean, those guys that they got backing them up aren't there yet. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't get there, but that's really hard to do. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them. They are so good, David. And Cal and his coaching staff have done a phenomenal job at what they do. And they're as good as anybody at it.
If I said they scored 30 bonus points, you taking the over or the under?
30. Probably taking the under on 30.
25.
Probably right in that area. Somewhere in that area. And that's what I'm guessing.
Okay. I would take the over on 25.
Take the over on 30, David?
I think it's like 28 or 29.
This is almost turned into a gambling website, so I'm sorry, USA Wrestling.
No, it's not.
This is the opinions.
No one's gambling. We're talking about whether or not something historical can happen, and this is a function of that. Okay? I mean, if they don't bonus, they can't. Let's put it this way. If they don't bonus, it can't happen within reason. I mean, they'd have to have 7 champs or something. So
they could have 7 in the finals.
Yeah, but again, you get 4 in the finals without bonus. So if you go, I mean, the difference between 7 runner-ups and 7 champs is 28 points.
They're going to get bonus the first 2 rounds. I mean, almost everybody on the team's going to get at least 1 bonus. So that's
what I'm saying. I think they're closer to 30 than they are to 25.
And you might be right.
I think it's historical.
They may be closer to 40 than they are 30.
I'd probably take the over at 30, and I don't think I'd have the courage to go to 35. Obviously, it depends on if they're healthy at the end of the year, but I mean, if they got Nagau scores a ton of points. Bartlett's the one that doesn't really score a ton of points, but this Braden Davis kid, and I kind of recruited him to wrestle in Michigan Border Brawl. It just didn't work out. We couldn't find him the right matchup. That kid had like 200 wins in high school and, running up scores. Robbie Howard struggled to stay healthy and took an early season feet to back major loss. Like, I think they put Braden Davis in if they think he can even get on the podium at 6th, 7th, or 8th.
Yep.
And if you're going to pick a weight to put a true freshman in to sneak on the podium, 125 is the weight this year.
Or you have guys that are so good they can do it pretty much at any weight they go at, like Messenbrink. Messenbrink will place.
No, agreed, but I'm saying if you have a guy,
not a freshman, he's a red shirt, obviously, but
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you take Braden Davis's skill level and you put him in, and you can pick any weight in the country, he's the same guy, the appropriate strength, and you pick a weight class, 25 is the weight.
without a doubt.
Yes, I'm saying they actually benefit there.
Yep.
I mean, they're the bad draw. And we all think Gable's coming back, but if Gable doesn't come back, Kirkfleet's like a huge favorite now.
Yes.
He's a huge favorite. Brooks is a huge favorite. Starachi's a huge favorite. Van Ness is like a co-favorite, I think, with Ridge Lovett. Levi Haynes has to be a co-favorite. I mean, he has to be. He's the highest returning placer. So, I mean, if he can hold that weight, that's 5 guys that if they won nationals, you wouldn't be shocked.
Yep.
And Truex is going to be top 4. He's been top 4 every year.
Correct.
Miguel's going to be top 3 or 4.
Correct.
Bartlett's going to be top 3 or 4.
Yep.
And then Messenbrink, I think, is going to finish somewhere 3 through 8. And then you got 25.
Yeah. Who could place?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to deep dive this at some point. I don't think it's going to be today, but anyway, I'm not an overly sentimental person, but I do want to say happy Thanksgiving. This being with USA Wrestling is a real blessing. Getting to do the pod every week with you and GT is a real blessing. You know, you guys are 2 of my best friends and guys I respect a ton. And, you know, we give each other trouble on and off the air, but, you know, you're one of the real guys I can count on in life. So, and it's a blessing to have the platform for people to know how smart you are, because you did a ton of work to help me over the years in the background, and you did it without the desire for any praise or acknowledgement. But I am happy that we were able to set up a format where you get to publicly participate and people know how smart you are.
Yeah, it's fun. And I agree. Grant's been a huge addition, and he's just one of the nicest human beings you'll ever see in the world. So I like to thank Grant for everything he's done. David, you've done more for wrestling than most people could even think about doing, with all the events you hold and the border brawls and the fundraising for amputees and PTS for the military with Randy's, you know, I mean, that's a lot of time. You spend more time on wrestling stuff than you probably do in your regular job. And I hope you don't mind that I say that, but I mean, you put in a lot of time to this, and you're doing it not because it's making you a wealthy man. You're doing it because you love the sport and you're trying to grow the sport. And, you know, that's awesome. So,
well, I think wrestling had a huge impact on both of our lives in different ways. Like, wrestling helped me overcome a lot of bullying. And, you know, not a lot of people know that story, and they don't need to. It happened a long time ago, and it's, you know, I'm fine now. But it's probably just safe to say growing up Asian in the 70s wasn't an ideal situation. And I quickly learned how good of a martial artist / wrestler my dad was, because he taught me self-defense. And it also, you know, helped me make friends in high school. Like, if you're good at a sport, it's a lot easier to be friendly, you know. So you know, but anyway, just thanks to GT, thanks to you, thanks to USA Wrestling, thanks to Justin Tritz and Track Wrestling for 7 years ago, you know, giving me a shot. And you know, like, it pops up on my Facebook memories about, you know, like the original pods I did with Hamilton and with Steen and with Marcus Hayne, and all those guys were great to work with. You know, they all had different strengths that, you know, made me be better, you know, because they could more than hold up their end of it. So,
and how cool is it that ESPN's going to broadcast the Iowa State meet? I mean, they've never done anything like this before. I think it's huge for the sport. It's huge for, you know, what
Yeah.
we'd like to see wrestling become. So,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, and that's no slight to Flo. Flo does an amazing job. Okay, Rockfin's doing an amazing job. So, you know, but the more you get to places that like a hotel has what you have, you know, like
Yep.
somebody watching in a hotel on Sunday afternoon. And I'm going to see you Saturday night, Marco. We're going to
Yep.
grab dinner together. So
Yep.
you Justin McClintock's going to join us. His son Lane just won an Eagle. That is the award down at the Tulsa tournaments, which is those tournaments are a very big deal. I'm starting to understand from all the kids we have in Border Brawl, like winning those.
He's
Yeah,
pretty
no,
good.
he's going to be in Border Brawl. Lane
Yeah,
is.
he's pretty good.
I'm the one that put him in my event. I clearly know he's good. I'm just saying. I'm trying to give him a shout out. You're acting like I was unaware. I'm the one that invited him to. What?
I know. I'm just saying he's pretty good. I can't wait to see him wrestle in that.
Yeah, I think Justin's doing the right thing with him too. Like, not, you know, you don't have to wrestle 100 matches in a year, and he tells the kid he loves him whether he wins or loses, which is probably way more important, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, on behalf of all of us, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you all next week.